We're here in the pipe shop of our shop, and we're happy to have Megan Farrell talk about some of the work she does here, both in the pipe reparation and the voicing end of it. She's our voicer and pipe repair preparation expert.
So you have old pipes here. You have to get them as good as new.
Correct.
What's the first step in the process?
So first what we do here is just kind of assess the pipes, see if there's any major damage that needs to be repaired. After that whole process, we remove the old collars from the pipe, and then the whole rank would go into our wash tank over there.
Because you can already see the difference between
Yes.
the exposed, clean, the metal that was covered up that's still clean, and
Correct.
then the dirty metal.
Yes, this is just all typical dirt and that inhabits an organ and stuff, and it clings to the metal.
Now, if you did see some damage, what's typical that would be a damaged pipe in an old organ like this?
Well, a lot of times the seams could split, and that can cause a problem for the physics of how the pipe works and such. Also, a lot of these ears are very fragile, so those tend to break and sometimes fall off. I've seen pipes that are just completely smashed that need the whole foot replaced and stuff like that. So.
And then you do all of that here.
Yes,
at this
over
pipe shop.
here we have our soldering station. So there's a few things in the prep work that goes into that, but more or less we're just kind of doing the same thing shown on the scene here.
And it looks like the toe has had a little bit of disformation after years of
Yes,
sitting on the chest.
yes. I mean, these pipes they're not light, so a couple years sitting on there, it kind of gets morphed and stuff.
So you'll round that out and fix that.
Absolutely.
So okay, you've got them all assessed, and you're ready to clean them. What's the cleaning process?
So the cleaning process involves pretty much high-grade chemical, which activates with heat. So I usually put the whole rank of pipes in our wash tank, and they sit in there for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then once that happens, pretty much I can just wipe them down, and they look like that. So after they're all cleaned and washed, there are some dents that do happen in the cleaning process, and as well taking them out of the organ and stuff. Accidents happen. So this one it's not round at the top, and there's a big dent on the side right here.
So this is a mandrel.
Yes, this is what we put the pipes on, and of course they vary in sizes according to what pipe I'm working with and stuff like that.
Different mandrels for every size pipe.
Correct, yes. So all we do is fit that on there, rub the metal out, and for the harder creases in the metal and stuff, we use a pipe thumper. So we kind of just tap out the metal like that, going in a circular motion so the metal stretches with the way you want it to. Just like that. And they are pretty malleable, so you can just use your hands sometimes. And there we go.
So your pipe's been fixed, and then?
Yep. So after that, they all need new tuning collars, which is what I'm doing here at the moment. So basically all I do with that is, after I have the top all nice and round and stuff, I find a collar that is snug but not tight, so it doesn't crease the metal over time, and one that isn't going to slip off from just sitting in the pipe organ.
Now, are the tuning slides formed, I assume, the same way on mandrels, so that you have lots of different sizes to match those pipes?
Yeah, we usually order these and just keep them in stock, because some of these are, this big. So we tend to lose things like that. But it should be snug, and you want to be able to just kind of push it, but it doesn't slide all the way down. So, and this is how the pipe gets tuned. This is the part that when we come to tune, we move this up and down to compensate for what pitch it's playing. Yeah, after all the slides are on and everything, I spend a little more attention to detail, which is usually focused on this part of the pipe, the mouth, because that's where the wind sheet will pass through, so that one has to be pretty accurate. Anything that we do with the mouth of the pipe pretty much is called voicing,
right.
So that all takes place in the voicing room.
Well, let's go see the voicing room.
Okay. So this is an unvoiced pipe, and all the specifications of this are sent to a pipe maker, who then sends back 61 notes, typically of this style pipe. They can have ears, depending on what the tone and stop we want to hear, but this one is just a regular principal pipe, which is a foundation of the pipe organ, and they come to us just like this, really tiny toe hole there, not letting much air through this area. So it kind of sounds like this when it's unvoiced. So after I receive them, I generally have already picked out what the cut up will be, which determines the tone and the fullness of the pipe.
Now, what do you mean by cut up?
Cut up. That is the distance between the lower lip and the upper lip.
And that's specified in the description of the organ before it's ever
correct.
built.
Yes, typically. That can be altered. Like once they're on the jack and I want to hear like a fuller tone, I would raise the cut up a little, maybe make it a little louder. But generally, we just go with a quarter of this distance, a quarter proportion of the mouth width.
So if the width is, say, an inch wide, then the cut up would be a quarter of an inch high.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but this is my favorite tool.
What is this?
Yes, that does all my math for me. So if I need a quarter cut up, I simply just set it to a quarter, and it takes this distance and transfers it to a quarter.
So you have the exact
on the other side, and then I just scribe a line across the mouth.
The metal's soft enough you can just draw on it.
Yep.
Almost,
yep.
Those sharp pins.
So then, once I know that, and as you said, the metal is very soft. So I take my knife and I go just under the line that I drew with the proportional divider, just to get all that metal off, leaving no burrs or anything like that, because that will affect the tone. And once I feel confident I'm close to that line, I'll just go along it very gently, just to make sure all the metal's gone. So now I have the proper measurement for the tone and color I'd like to hear out of this pipe. It probably hasn't made much of a difference in the sound, because it's still not getting enough air. So that's where we'll start next. So we'll just, from experience, I know about how big to make this hole. So, and then it looks like that, which doesn't look very clean and nice. And this is all about making sure the wind coming in the toe goes over this part of the pipe as smoothly as possible. So now what we'll do is we'll clean up that toe hole with a countersunk bit, which just kind of guides it into the pipe a little nicer. See there? So we'll see how it sounds now. That's a little bit of noise. It didn't sound very good, but we'll see what we can do about that. If you notice, the tone kind of sounds a little gritty. And that's because when it crosses this bottom lip, there's a piece of metal inside here called the languid, which helps direct the wind sheet that way, or in towards the pipe, or out towards this way where it speaks. So to guide the wind a little better across that, we use a tool called a nicking tool, which is just that. And we will put just a few little, almost like tracks, into the languid to guide the wind sheet over the upper lip more efficiently. So we'll give it another. And that took a lot of the grittiness and sandiness out of the tone of the pipe. But it still sounds just a little slow, which is caused by the languid being a bit too high. So I want this piece of metal to come back down a little bit, and we use this hammer on a spring tool. Just put that in there like that. And knock the edges down just a slight bit. And that's pretty good for just voicing on the table. I usually get about like 50 to 70% done on the table, and then another 10% on the jack before we get the pipes back to their home in the church. And then I would probably finish up to about 100% in the job, because you have to account for how it's going to sound in the church and with all the other things that I can't predict in this room. So and that's that. There you go. This is where we do all the tuning for the pipes in the shop. I have a tuner here which tells me what note and what sense to set it to. fine-tune everything. I'll go through the whole stop on here and see the volume of the whole stop overall and blend it all together as best I can in this room, and then the rest will come at the job when they're in the church.
Can you show a little bit of toe adjustment that you might do?
Yeah. So when I would like the pipe louder, it's a simple adjustment at the toe, just by opening this up a small bit, letting more wind through. And when you do that, the pipe can either get a little slow or quick, so then I would just adjust the languid accordingly to that to compensate.
So that's pushing it down a little bit when you're...
Correct, yeah. I'm just going to make it a little bit quicker. And now it's too quick because it has a little chirp in it. So then I would just correct myself going the other way. And if you hear that, it's a little too slow. So
it's just a trial and error and finding the right spot.
Back and forth. And that would be pretty good for at the moment. If it's too loud, then just go the opposite way. Instead of opening this up, you would just go. Trying to keep it round and circular, just so that wind sheet stays at its optimal efficiency. Okay. So when we voice on site inside the job or at the church, typically there's one person in the chamber with all the pipes, with all the tools you saw over at the table. And then there's a listener at the console playing the notes, going through the stop, making sure everything's even, that nothing's slow, nothing that we didn't hear in this room is making itself present in the church. So it's just a whole, basically voicing on site is a lot of volume. Typically all the pipes should speak correctly when they leave.
One of our signature products is a low-profile console. I discovered years ago that many organists are both organist and choir director. So if you have a separate organist and separate choir director, that's one thing they have to communicate back and forth. When you have a single person organist and choir director, they have to be able to conduct and play at the same time from the console. So over the years I've developed, worked with our designers to come up with a console that is low profile, but is also still elegant to play and wonderful to look at. We build these consoles in such a way that we can be either a 2-manual, 3-manual, 4-manual, vertical English drawn-out console like you see here, or a terraced console, French or American style, very, very common. We build them in bases, in multiples, because there's economy in mass production. So if you can build the bases, usually we build them 3, 4, and 5 at a time. This is another console that we use. This is called a straight-sided low-profile console. And this we built for 2 of them, one for a client and the second one for stock. And this is a pretty good example of our product. It is movable, it is on wheels, it has a little drawer which has been used, I should say, by other of my good colleagues. Otherwise, though, but it's a quarter-sawn white oak with a cherry interior. This is designed to be either a 2-manual or a 3-manual. Could be expanded to a 4-manual pretty easily. The exterior of the console has a very simple raised panel pattern that can be accommodated for any client's specific architectural needs. For us, we have here is the roll top for the Cathedral of Metuchen, New Jersey. The roll top to the console. It's been stripped and refinished. It has now in the process about halfway being done. Stain is being applied, and is going through a second and third sanding. In any project, all components of an organ has to be receive finish, whether it's clear lacquer or shellac. All those components come into the finishing area where they are sanded and finished, have clear lacquer, as I say, or shellac applied to them. In the case of the console, in this case, we have to have it stained. When we have visual components like consoles or casework, it has to all match the architectural furnishings of the church. So we have this area for which the color has to be matched, and stain applied and finish applied.
So this looks like the finished product of a refinished console.
Mm-hmm.
This is the sconce that you're working on in here, and you had to refinish, strip it, and restain it completely, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Over the years, the console received a lot of nicks, a lot of scratches, a lot of years of wear, what have you. So it was opted to simply strip it all down to its wood, natural wood, sand it. We came up with a stain color that was a match to the original. So now the stain's been applied, and now it has received several coats of clear lacquer to give a nice glossy effect, and ready to be stuffed, as we call it.
Now, when I want to stain something like the woodwork in my house, I go to my local Home Depot and I go find the brown that looks good.
Right.
But when you have an organ, especially one that's being refinished, you have to match something that's already there. So the process of getting the colors correct is a process in itself.
It is a process in itself, because wood is not uniform in color. No matter whether it's old wood or new wood, you have to try to get it. The clients generally expect a reasonable degree of homogenization of color. So we have to get the wood to look like it's all reasonably matched. Sometimes consoles or woodwork, any casework, any woodwork in an organ, some of it's going to be facing sunlight, in which case it'll be bleached. Some of it's facing darkness, which has a more original tone. And then, of course, the client has to, in their mind, have an idea what it looks like too. So there has to be a certain degree of matching when we choose color. And brown is not just brown. There's many shades of brown, and we sometimes will have to use a custom color of several kinds of browns and several other toners to achieve the color that we feel is pleasant to the eye and faithful to the product.
And that's not just like going and getting your paint color matched at the store. You actually have to do some trial and error and experimentation.
It's a lot of trial and error, actually. A lot of trial and error. And the thing that is even more challenging is when you bring a console like this back and the client has refinished all the rest of their woodwork at the same time, but didn't consult us, and so that they don't both either match exactly. And we try to work with other vendors so we can get a good result in the end.
Always make sure your organ builder knows what color you're refinishing your church.
That's correct.
Tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, in any organ builder shop, I mean, pipe organs are big. They take many, many parts. And the question is, well, how do you keep track of everything? Well, you have to keep track of everything. So in this case, the sconce organ we're seeing is now laid out, all the bottom boards laid out in order, and they're labeled. Organ shops always have some form of storage and organization. In this case, we have one shelf before us that have several Borden stops. We do have a vast warehouse, which we'll not see today, of organ parts that are reclaimed from either complete instruments or parts here and there that are looking for projects to be used in. We do have a good degree of responsibility, I feel, in being green where it's practical. There's many organ components, or pipes in this case, pipes, which can artistically serve a new instrument if applied and chosen in the correct manner, and would do better job in a church than a landfill. And so we will be very selective on what certain ranks we will keep for a specific job, artistically speaking, that could be used in a project that requires that kind of sound and that kind of use.
There used to be a time where I felt like organists were a little bit embarrassed that they didn't have a completely brand new sparkling organ, and yet now it seems more that people are happy to point out that these were reused, these pipes were recycled, and now they're breathing new life into the instrument, and it's a positive thing that you're recycling, being able to save some pipes from another job for something else down the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, historically speaking, this is completely normal. If you go back to the great instruments of Franz Cavalier, Cole commonly reused instruments from his predecessors. The builders of Germany, all European organs always have material of the previous builder that were deemed worthy of reclaiming into the new instrument. Nothing wrong with it. We don't like to use the word use. We do use the word heritage or experienced pipe work. We do prefer not to use old chests. We prefer all new mechanics. We will use heritage or experienced pipe work for which a certain application or a certain case or a certain sound warrants that
So everything we've seen in the shop today is electro-pneumatic action, but you also can work on mechanical action organs as well.
Absolutely. We gratefully and gladly restore tracker organs. I've been involved most of my career with the Organ Historical Society and have a great appreciation for American 19th century tracker organs.
Wonderful. Well, Pat, thank you so much for welcoming us into your shop and showing us around today. How can customers find you?
Very easy. You can contact us at www.pjmorgans.com. We're on the web, of course, through our website. You can reach us on Facebook. You can also, of course, always call the shop at 610-970-9817. We're located in Stowe, Pennsylvania, which is about 40 miles west of Philadelphia. And we go anywhere in the country, so feel free to contact us.
And links and all of that information is down in the description of this video, so just scroll down to find it. And you also have a number of recordings of your instruments if people want to hear some of your latest work, correct?
So recordings of our instruments are available through the Raven and Pro Organo label. Of course, you can just contact our shop if you want to receive a recording. Also, our handy desktop calendar is available, and many recordings will soon be available on the Organ Live.
Well, yeah, all of your recordings right now are on the Organ Live website, which is one of our 3 streaming stations. If you can't get enough streaming classical organ music 24 hours a day, remember you can find us on organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and the Organ Experience. If you've enjoyed this, please click the thumbs up button, and if you want to get notifications when new videos are added, be sure to subscribe down below. I'm Brent Johnson, and I'll talk to you next time.